You've decided that the stock market might not just be right for you. That's okay, because even though the stock market is nice, some people just want to invest in a tangible asset, not just a thing in a stock that you can't actually get. They might want to invest in that physical asset that will also increase in value and potentially become a collector's item. Cars, paintings, wine, sometimes even houses can be considered something that you can invest in. It's cars, though, that I think would be the most interesting to invest in right now. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jacob Fisher, and today we are talking about cars, but not just cars, because this isn't an automotive channel, but rather cars as investments. I was given this idea from Chasing the Apex, who I will link down below if you want to check him out. He does a bunch of car reviews, which are pretty cool. Anyways, he asked if I could put together a video on using cars as investments, and I thought it would be a great idea, so let's tap that like button and get into it. Cars just might not be the first thing that come to your head when you think of investments, because there's that saying that cars lose 15% of their value right when you drive it off the lot, and they depreciate 15 to 20% a year, which sounds already like a bad investment. But you aren't necessarily going out there buying a new car in hopes that it increases in value right then. Of course, there are a few examples, like the BMW M2 is a great example. When it came out, it sold, or MSRP was supposed to be around $60K. But some dealers and private sellers were hoping to sell it around $100,000 just with some extra bits, but not $100,000 worth of extra bits. That's kind of sort of like price gouging as well. So let's get into cars that actually have increased in value over the last few decades, because if you're looking for a car as an investment, you are typically looking for an older car and not just a new one. Staying with the BMW theme for a moment, we have an E30 BMW M3, which to me is a gorgeous car. This car sold for $35,900 as the original MSRP, which with inflation is around $68,000 in today's money, about the same price for a new M3. However, and this is where it kind of gets interesting, there are three 1990 M3s selling from $72,000 to $110,000 around me, all with over 80,000 miles on the odometer. A low mileage example of the car would easily sell for over $130,000 with the right buyer. If you're in the position to buy this car in maybe 1995, a few years after it came out, you probably could have enjoyed a bit of depreciation, because it probably went down in value when it first came out on the car, because, again, it probably just went down in value after you bought it. Nobody would expect this car to increase so much in value despite it doing that right now. Had you done that and bought the car for around, let's say, $25,000 back in 1995, which with inflation, that's $42,000, that is today's money, you probably could sell the car for at least $90,000 if you didn't drive it too much and it was in good condition. That's about a 5.23% return a year over the last 15 years. Not bad. These cars are also apparently still increasing value every year, and there's a ton of other cars out there increasing in value every single year, because there are enthusiasts, collectors, who all just dream to have one of these cars in the garage one day. Whether they want to drive it or just store it there and look at it, it's up to them. It's like any asset, though, that is physical. If enough people like the asset, there's enough demand for the asset, and they want to own it, then the price should generally increase in price as long as the supply is limited. Supply and demand, it's just kind of basic economics, right? The difficult part, though, is finding these assets that are likely to increase in value rather than decrease. On another example, straying away from the cars for a moment, when Van Gogh was alive, his paintings were looked down upon and hated. In fact, he only sold a single painting in his lifetime, the Red Vineyard, for 400 francs, or about $2,000 in today's value. Somehow, though, this Dr. Gogh, I'm assuming that's it, sold for $82.5 million back in 1990. Not even in 2020. That's probably well over $100 million right now in today's money. As you can see, things might not seem like they are worth much at the time, but they can really increase in value by quite a bit. Cars maybe not increase that much, but let's get back into them though and talk about some cars that might increase in value over the next decade or so. I'm not going to go into some intense examples because there are cars out there that have sold for millions of dollars that are old. You just kind of need to look them up. I promise this will be the last BMW example, but an E46 BMW M3 that my brother had, he bought for $10,000 in 2019 or late 2018, I forget the exact date, and he sold it just recently for $15,000, which that's pretty cool, a nice 50% gain on the overall investment. Not only did it appreciate that much in value, but I was able to drive it a bit, so that was pretty fun. And I didn't add too many miles on the car, so it didn't affect the price all too much, along with being a clean car, a color that apparently people love. Well, I personally love the color too. It just increased in value a good bit. I promise though, no more mention of BMWs in the rest of the video, despite not mentioning the BMW M5, which can also be bought to increase in value. The Porsche 944 Turbo is a good example of a car that has been increasing value over the last 5 years. Back in 2015, you could have purchased the car for $25,000, and right now, they're worth over $40,000. But what makes this car so special? That's kind of the tricky bit. If you're really into cars, you could potentially pick up on the little things that make cars increase in value, but if you know very little, kind of like me, I don't know that much about cars, then it'd be difficult to find the right car other than just following current trends on what the car market is doing. The Datsun 240Z is a pretty cool looking car to me, depending on what you think of it, of course, but this car has also been increasing in value recently and has just started to level off in price before potentially increasing in value again. If you look at it like a stock market, goes up, stops for a little bit, and then goes up again. Maybe, I don't exactly know if that's how it works, but I would assume so. A good example of this car can be had for an $18,000, then hopefully that increases in price over the next few years. A shocking one, the VW Beetle, the classic one from 1967, has also been increasing in value. You can get one for under $11,000, but their price trends have also been increasing. So hopefully it would increase in value more than the $11,000. You're kind of looking for an investment that can provide that stock market style around 8% a year. So hopefully these cars also increase about 8% a year. And it's these classic cars with their cool styles and maybe a manual transmission that can really help the car increase in value. Manual cars are coming to an end recently, despite many enthusiasts not wanting that to happen. Of course, you can still get a manual car, but that doesn't really mean old manuals aren't increasing in value, because again, enthusiasts and collectors might want to own one of the last manual cars out there. The older cars with limited stock, low supply, but high demand are the cars that should increase in value through the years. All it takes is, a little bit of research into which cars fit that criteria. I've yet to find a website that shows off exactly like how the stock market works, where you can see that SPY was in fact $100 many years ago, and now it's sitting at 200 some, 300 some. I probably should have checked a chart before I said that. But with a stock, you can see the value in a chart. But with a car, there's not many services out there that allow you to do that. Of course, there are some, but I was unable to find them. And maybe you're into cars and maybe you'll have better luck in finding a service like that. Or if maybe you want to create a service, that'd be a pretty cool thing to have. I wouldn't mind checking out that website to see the historic value of cars and kind of find cars that are increasing in value during the times. If you're really into cars, you might already know things like this, that the Datsun, the Porsche are all increasing in value, and that's of course good on you if you just know that about cars, but for the average investor it might be a bit difficult to find that car. But it's not impossible with enough research and Googling. So hopefully you can get into this, you can get a garage, you can store your cars in there, you can hopefully drive them, because I think cars should be driven, not just kept in the garage, but that's just me. But hopefully you'll be able to sell at a higher value if you actually kept it in a garage and then kept up with work with it. Let me know your thoughts on this alternative investment in the comments below, or if you've done this before. I just want to hear your thoughts. I upload videos on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on travel and finance, so if that sounds like something interesting to you, make sure you hit that little subscribe button down there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.